Hello everyone, I'm back, and today we are going to talk about the really big leak on the 10th edition core rules. You can see almost every core rule, so that is amazing. But now let's check out how these are going to affect our favorite little plastic or resin or even lead soldiers. So, let's check out the rules of the 10th edition. Okay, I'm not really sure if I should start with the new type of datasheets or with the rules. So for now, I think I will show you the datasheet and I will refer it back every time when I talk about the rule that is in connection with it. For now, what do we know? So the game, as usual, will start with the deployment of the armies. It will be easy, you will have the deployment zone and deploy your armies. But there will be some abilities that can make things a little bit spicy. Let's check out these rules. Usually you put your units into your deployment zone. That's it. Easy and understandable. And we have 4 interesting rules that can change this. First one, Deep Strike. So basically, you can put this unit into reinforcement and they can come in later, like the Terminators teleporting in or the Jumper guys arriving from the sky. Okay, let's check out the next one. Scout X. The X will represent a number. And this rule means, for example, Scout 10. Then before the game starts, this unit can move up to 10 inches. Okay, the next one, Infiltrators. Basically, you can deploy these units almost everywhere on the board. But it has to be more than 9 inches away from enemy units and from the enemy's deployment zone. So if your opponent also has infiltrators, well, you should take up the positions that you want first. And the last one, Leader. So these are the heroes, the HQ options, and maybe some of the other characters like elites. Well, before deployment, you designate a bodyguard unit, like a squad of intercessors, to a captain. When you deploy the captain, you deploy it with the intercessors, because for now he is part of that unit. And that's it. But 2 interesting things. One unit can only have 1 leader model in it. So you can't put a captain and a lieutenant into the same squad. And the other one, when this unit is attacked, you cannot allocate to the leader. So basically, everyone have to die before your captain takes any damage. Okay, I think I should mention it here. Every unit has a starting strength. Like a 10 model unit of Battle Sisters, they have a starting strength of 10. If they have less than 10 models, they are below starting strength. And there is another thing, below half strength. If they have less than half of the models of the unit, then they are below half strength. Also interesting thing, or a unit that is only 1 model, then if that unit lost more than half of its wounds, it's considered to be under half strength. And the last one, Destroyed. Deployment. Let's check out our other phases. First one, Command Phase. At the start of this phase, you gain 1 command point. There are some abilities that are happening at the start of your command phase. For example, the Chapter Master picks a unit that can reroll its hit rolls and things like that. So you do that in the command phase. Okay, and one more thing, you can earn 1 extra command point per round, but no more, except the Votans. Also, in the command phase happens the Battle Shock. When a unit takes a Battle Shock test, you have to roll 2 d6s. If this one is equal or more than the unit's leadership, then it passed. So it's not battle shocked. But if it's less, then the unit is battle shocked. Its objective control changes to 0. So this unit can't control any objectives. But also, you can't use any stratagems on them. So that can be a little bit hindrance. But if this one is not enough, if the unit that is battle shocked trying to fall back from combat, then its fallback becomes a desperate fallback. I will tell about this one at the movement phase, but for now, this can be really bad. But one good thing, there is a stratagem called Insane Bravery for 1 command point. You can use this one after a unit fails its battle shock test, and for 1 command point, that unit is auto-passing that. That one is really great. It can be a lifesaver. Let's go through the second phase, Movement Phase. This is when you make a move. Every unit has a movement characteristic. In the case of the Battle Sister squad, this one is movement 6. So they can move up to 6 inches. There is also a possibility to advance. When you are advancing, you make a move up to your movement characteristic and roll a d6. Then you can move the additional number of inches that you rolled. But after this one, you cannot shoot and you cannot charge, unless some other rules allows you to. And there is a third type of movement, but I don't think it's a movement because it's remaining stationary, when nobody from this unit moves. This one is also good because you can gain some buffs. That's it about the normal movements. There are different movement types if you are in engagement range. If you are in engagement range, you can remain stationary and you can fall back. If you fall back, you can shoot and you can charge. Fallback looks like you can move away from the enemy unit, the number of inches, that is your movement characteristic. But you can't go through enemy models. If you want to go through enemy models, because you want to fall back to take an objective, but to have to move through enemy models, then your fallback becomes a desperate fallback. This one is the same if you're falling back with a battle shocked unit. Okay, desperate fallback is a fallback, but when you fall back, you roll a d6 for each model in that unit, and on a 1 or 2, a model dies. Can be good, can be game changing, but you can lose a lot of models, or you can save everyone, depending on the dice.
Through the gardens? What's the matter, Danny? You never taken a shortcut before?
About movement. You see there are sceneries and obstacles on the board, and units will interact these ones. But how? First one, obstacles. Well, there's a lot of debris, barrels and things like that on the battlefield. If these are not taller than 2 inches, then nothing happens. Models can go through them. But in case of buildings, and in case of obstacles that are higher than 3 inches tall, infantry can climb it. But then you have to calculate also with the vertical distance. In case of flying models can move over enemies, but they can't land in engagement range. Or, if your flying model want to charge or want to move to a building or to a high obstacle, then you can measure the distance diagonally, so that will be somewhat shorter. Okay, these are the movements. But at the end of the movement phase, you can bring in reinforcements, although not in the first turn. Reinforcements. You can put maximum 25% of your army into reinforcements. If you put them into reinforcements, you can bring them in the second and the third turn. From the second turn, they can arrive from any sides of the board except from your opponent's deployment zone. But when they arrive, they have to be more than 9 inches away from enemy models. In the third turn, they can arrive from any side of the board, even from your opponent's deployment zone. But still they have to be further than 9 inches away from enemy models. If they don't arrive until the end of the battle, they count as destroyed, so bring them in. When they arrive, you have to measure that 9 inches horizontally. Okay, let's go into one of the more interesting phases, shooting phase. What do you have to do at the start of the shooting phase? Check on what units or models can shoot from your army. After that, you have to select a target for them. First of all, who can shoot? Everyone who is not advanced or fall back. Who can be the target of shooting? Well, anyone within range and visible to your guys. So you can determine that really easily. Before you start shooting, you have to allocate every shot from that unit. You are able to split fire. Maybe if a model have 2 or more shooting weapons, it can shoot at different targets. So if the bolt gun has 2 shots, that bolt gun with both of the shots have to target the same model. But other than that, you decide everything. You selected the target, you told your opponent how you're gonna shoot, and then after that, you make hit rolls, make wound rolls, and hopefully your opponent doesn't make his or her save rolls. After the saving throws, any wound went through, it causes damage, according to the damage characteristic. One interesting thing at shooting, there is an ability called stealth. If a unit is in stealth, then you have to subtract 1 from your hit rolls. If a unit is in engagement range, that is not a monster or a vehicle, it can shoot with its pistols, but only with those. If a monster or vehicle is in combat, it can shoot all of its weapons, but it has to subtract 1 from the hit rolls. But also, if a monster or vehicle is in engagement with your guys, you can still shoot it, but you have to subtract 1 from your hit rolls, because you are aiming more carefully and you don't want to hit your guys. That's it about shooting, at least for now. And after that, happening the charge phase, one of the last 2. First of all, pick your units that are eligible to charge. So the ones that hasn't advanced or fall back from combat, or not in engagement range, or not an aircraft, because aircraft units are not eligible to charge on bases. How does a charge work? Pick a unit that wants to charge. After that, pick a target unit. The target unit must be within 12 inches. When you are making a charge roll, you have to roll 2 d6s. The charge is successful if the target unit is in equal or less range than the number that you rolled. Okay, if the charge was successful, you must move your units as much as you can into base-to-base contact with the unit that you've charged. If you want to charge more than 1 unit, it's called multi-charge. When you are making a multi-charge, you roll the 2 d6s like before, but the amount that you have to roll is the amount that you can reach both units with it. So in case of multi-charge, everything that you declared as a charge target, you have to be able to touch it. Or else the charge is failed and you can't move. When you are making a successful charge, you get something called charge bonus. This means you get fights first, which is really great because you can fight first. Charging over terrain. This one is the same as in case moving over terrain. If this is 2 inches or less, you can just move through, nothing happens. If it's taller than 2 inches, well, then your units have to climb up. So this is additional distance. Okay, and charging with flying units. You can move over enemy models, which is great because you can charge the thing that you really want to charge, even if your opponent has a screen. And when you are charging with a flying model into a building or to a higher place, well, you can measure the distance diagonally, so you have to roll less. Flying is nice in this edition, I guess. Okay, we made all of our charge rolls, or at least some of them. Then the fight phase is happening. Fight phase. Who is eligible to fight? There are 2 types of guys, or girls. First of all, the units that are in engagement range. And after that, the units that made the charge move. How does a fight phase looks? Players are picking units to fight alternating between each other, starting with the player whose turn is not taking place. So, if it's your fight phase, your opponent picks first. But, a really important thing, the units that have fight first are fighting first. So probably, your charging units will fight first. And after that, the enemy can pick one. Unless the enemy has a unit with fight first. Then, your opponent starts the fight phase. Okay, after all the fight first units have fought, you go and fight with the remaining units. That's it about fighting. But let's check on the steps of combat. First one, pile in. You pick a unit to fight. The models in this unit can pile in 3 inches, which means they can move 3 inches, but they must end up closer to the closest enemy model. And one more thing, they must end this move in engagement range, with at least one of the enemy units. If this one is not possible, they can't pile in, and in worst cases, they can't even fight. But then you killed something in the charge phase, so that is also okay. After piling in, you can make melee attacks. First of all, you can determine which model can fight. These are the models that are within engagement range. And after that, every model can fight who is in base contact with the model that is in engagement range. So if one guy is in engagement range, every model around it that can touch its base can fight. Okay, after that you determine this. You choose one melee weapon and fight with it. That's it. Every rule is usually on the data slate. Like here. Okay, and one more important thing. Every model who can must fight. But if you want to keep alive the thing that you are fighting with, choose the weaker weapon. After that you made all of your attacks, you are able to consolidate. Consolidate is almost the same as piling in. You can make a 3-inch move, but again, you have to move into engagement range. If you can't move into engagement range, you can choose to stand still, or if there is an objective marker nearby, you can consolidate the 3 inches to the direction of the objective marker. If, but only if, you are able to get in range of the objective marker. So after fighting, you are near the objective, you have a chance to capture it, which is nice. And after the fight phase, your turn ends and starts your opponent's. Okay, this is how usually a turn goes. But I talked a lot about hit rolls, wound rolls, and things like that. Let's go through them really fast. Making hit rolls. When you are making hit rolls, you should check a data slate. Here is the Battle Sister Squad. They have a BS 3+ on most of the weapons. This means you have to roll a 3 or above to score a hit. That's it. It's really simple. BS is for shooting, but you see melee weapons with VS, weapon skill. When you are in melee, you have to roll this one. So when you are in melee and you want to score a hit roll, you have to roll the VS, which you can see there. BS is for ballistic skill, VS is for weapon skill. Okay, wound rolls. As you can see, every weapon has a strength characteristic, there. And every unit has a toughness characteristic, there. This is the 2 things that you take in account when you are making a wound roll. Here is a little chart. The wound roll of 1 always fails. You can wound a unit on a 2+ if the weapon's strength characteristic is at least double the amount of the enemy unit's toughness characteristic. You can wound a unit on a 3+ if your weapon's strength characteristic is bigger than the enemy unit's toughness characteristic but less than double. You wound a unit on a 4+ if the strength characteristic of the weapon is equal to the unit's toughness characteristic. You wound a unit on a 5+ if the unit's toughness characteristic is bigger than the strength characteristic of your weapon, but not double. And if the unit's toughness characteristic is at least double or more than the strength characteristic of your weapon, then you can only wound that unit on a 6+. Okay, we've made the hit roll, we made the wound roll, then there is a thing called allocating attacks. I think I should mention it here. When the enemy making hit and wound rolls, you have to allocate these attacks to a model in your unit. So this is the model who takes damage when you can't make a save roll. In most cases, it doesn't really matter, but it matters in case they have different saving throws, like one of them has a shield or not, one of them is in cover or not, or they have different weapons. Because usually the guys with the basic loadout, so no special weapons or no unit leaders, will die first. One thing, once you allocated attacks to a model, until the end of that phase, you have to allocate all of the attacks to that model. So you can't switch between those, at least until the end of the phase. So think carefully. Okay, and another thing, if any model in your unit is wounded, you must allocate all attacks to that model first. Okay, we allocated the attacks. There are the saving throws. First of all, armor save. Every unit has an armor save characteristic. There. Usually this is the number that you have to roll. You can improve it like staying in cover or giving some kind of a buff to yourself, but you can only improve it with +1. So in case of the sister, it never can be more than 2+. Okay? And one interaction. Some of the weapons has AP. If you are making an armor saving throw, this is the number that you have to subtract from your armor save, because this weapon has an armor penetration. So if you shoot them with bolt guns, they have a 3+ save. But if you shoot them with a Ministorm Heavy Flamer, they have a 4+, because this one has -1 AP. That's it. And there is another type of save called Invulnerable Save. You can see it there with the shield icon. This is a save that you can't modify, but you can use it anytime. How does it work? In case of a Meltagun, you can see it has 4 points of armor penetration. But the sisters only have 3+ armor save, so you have to roll a 3 or above. But if you give this a -4, then you can only save on a 7+, which is impossible in a d6. But in this case, you can choose to use the invulnerable save. In this case, you have a chance to save on a 6+. It's something. But in case of the heroes, usually it is a 4+, so at least a 50% to save. It's a nice to have addition. Okay, and if you can't make the saving throw, you suffer wounds. There is another type of wounds called mortal wounds. Mortal wounds are the wounds that you can't make saving throws against. So you took some wounds or mortal wounds, then you have to inflict damage. Usually this is where you take down guys or give them some damage. Like a 2-wound Space Marine takes 1 damage, so it has only 1 wound. But there is another type of save called Fear No Pain. This is a save after a save, so when a damage went through, you can use this ability. For example, one of your guys has a Fear No Pain 6+. In this case, for every damage that he took, you can roll a d6. For example, your Terminator has 3 wounds and took 3 points of damage. Then you roll 3 d6s. One of them is a 1, one of them is a 2, and one of them is a 6. In this case, you ignored 1 point of damage, so the guy is alive on 1 wound. Again, a nice to have thing. And the last one, Deadly Demise. Some of the units has this ability. Usually, this one is only activating when the model with this ability dies. There is a number, like Deadly Demise 3. In this case, when this model dies, you roll a d6. And if you roll a 6, then you check on the Deadly Demise number and you deal mortal wounds around you. So when a tank, a monster, or a big thing dies, it has a chance to blow up or to go into death rows and things like that, and damages things around it. So these are the basics of the gameplay currently that we know of. We also have knowledge about the weapons and the weapon types, and some of the basic stratagems that you can use. And I will tell you about it in the next video, hopefully very soon. And when I make that video, I will upload this and that one into one bigger video, so you don't have to switch pages if you want to check on everything. So that's it for now. Thank you for watching or listening. If you like what I do, please hit the like button, subscribe, or both, or even hit the little bell. If you don't hit the little bell, probably I will upload a video on every week. But thank you, and that's it for now. See ya.